The Nuclear Age Part 2, or Part 5, who knows at this point. If you don't know what the Nuclear Age is, then you should probably go watch the other 4 videos that came before this one. One of these days, I need to make an atomic bomb, which I can't do until I grab some stuff from the end and obtain the element Californium. Also, a big shout out to my patrons. You guys are awesome and it's a great way to help support the channel. You even get access to a private Minecraft SMP server using this modpack, which happens to be of my own making, and on CurseForge. By the way, Spooktober is here, or almost here, and the next 100-day video will be a seasonal 33 hours of work on my favorite building project of all time. If you like all things Halloween, you don't want to miss it. Lastly, if you enjoyed the video, consider dropping a like and subscribing. That'd be pretty neat. Thanks! In the last video, I built this facility set into the side of a mountain, and it's even got its own nuclear reactor to supply plenty of power to my more dangerous activities. Activities I want kept far away from my backyard. However, I find myself needing to return whence I came to clean up my backyard among other things, and like any good yard maintenance service, I brought along my personal nuclear reactor and all the fissionable materials I had thus far collected. To the surprise of no one, least of all me, I discovered that my power generation had shut off once again. This time, the culprit is a lack of diesel. How original. You see, the problem is the input rate of crude oil into the distillation tower. The pipes aren't transferring it quickly enough, so eventually the generators and boilers run out of diesel, which cuts the power off, thus slowing down the production of diesel even more. I had to jump start the pump jacks with the capacitor to get everything up and running again, but I was able to solve any future occurrences of this problem by bypassing the crude oil storage tank and routing the pump jack outputs directly into the input of the distillation tower. The only downside is I no longer have a buffer for when my pump jacks exhaust an oil deposit. With the construction of a second nuclear reactor looming on the horizon, I looked into making a semi-automatic sieving system to provide me with certain rare materials commonly used in recipes related to reactor components. These materials being primary lithium and boron obtainable via sieving crushed diorite. I made an automatic hammer machine to first process the diorite before feeding it into the siever, or siever, one of those two, and gave both machines a bit of power. But that's the easy part. The hard part is supplying the system with lots of diorite to begin with. Luckily, there are some ways available to me. Although, getting picked up in a tornado is not one of them. But first, I finished crafting up some reactor building blocks, and would have gone to assemble a new reactor right then, had there not been an invasion that night. The next morning, I went out to a field next to my river and plopped down a reactor so that I might always be depleting nuclear fuels while working on other projects. 10 out of 10 nuclear power plant. I can now divert all of my attention to a means of getting lots of diorite, which happens to involve more sieving. This time with soul sand to get nether quartz, which can be used to craft diorite. In addition, I set up a metal press to handle the ore pieces outputted from the crushed diorite, and an assembler machine to autocraft the diorite itself. The cobblestone is super easy to get, since there's a block literally just called a cobblestone generator. Pretty self-explanatory. My notes for day 9 include, got soul sand and forgot to record. Well, if there was any day that forgetting to record wouldn't be bad, then it would have been day 9, since all I did was sit in the nether and consume vast quantities of food while vein mining soul sand. My shovel durability can attest to that. On day 10, I swapped in a new fuel for my reactor to burn, this time LEU-235 fuel, or low-enriched uranium-235 fuel, so as to begin getting certain plutonium isotopes, some of which I got small amounts of by that evening. I suppose I should finally get around to doing this since it's long overdue. You mean touch grass? No, silly goose, I mean make a vulcanizer to produce rubber products. This multi-block takes a lot of stuff, although none of it's particularly challenging, and I need it to mainly make tires for vehicles and aircraft. I say the hardest part was just making the blueprint for the molds for the vulcanizer. Kinda random if you ask me. I went through several layers of rubber crafting involving a chemical laboratory and my metal press, all so that I could end up with natural rubber sheets to stick in the vulcanizer itself. After a rather complicated and interesting animation, the machine spit out some tires which I intend to use for the creation of a fast and well-armed World War II era fighter, the Bf-109. It's quite a bit faster than the Spitfire, and while it doesn't drop bombs, it does have a machine gun that uses explosive ammo. History nerds in the comments, I'm only going off what's in the mod, so please keep your essays limited to no more than 3 paragraphs. A whole lot of aluminum later, I'd made all the parts for the aircraft, and I'd like to take a moment to complain that the recipe includes a bomb bay item, but the plane doesn't actually drop bombs. That's kinda cringe. Once I had the plane, I still needed to make a weapons box to craft the necessary ammo, but it wasn't long before I had everything I needed and was taking off from a hilltop because who needs runways, especially when it's Flan's mod. After joyriding around in the air for a little bit, I remembered that little military outpost I'd found a couple videos ago. The best loot that I got ended up being from the soldier NPCs I killed rather than the actual loot chest. I got several new weapons, most importantly the combat shotgun, a one-hit kill weapon for most basic mobs. I continued my travels until I came upon a new village with a great view overlooking the ocean, at which point I landed. Unfortunately, my cursor got all screwed up and I spent a bunch of time trying to figure out what the problem was. It turns out it had nothing to do with the game and instead was being messed up by some other application in the background. Once my mouse was fixed, I could turn to the enjoyable task of looting the village. The blacksmith's chest did not disappoint and I set off back home with a backpack filled with lots of stolen food and loot. What better way to celebrate my return than by irradiating myself with depleted LEU-235 fuel and killing some mobs with my new weapons. The morning of day 17 saw me make an unpleasant discovery that my steam turbine had shut off. Why did it shut off? Not enough diesel again? Good guess, but surprisingly that wasn't the culprit. It turned out that my pipes transporting steam began not transporting enough steam when I turned off one boiler. The other boiler's internal tank was full of steam though, but it wasn't being outputted quickly enough. So I made some fluid ducts in hopes that they might have a higher extraction and transfer rate than the basic immersive engineering pipes. And lo and behold, it worked! I'm now able to supply my steam turbine with only one boiler, which is just as well because the pollution over my base is becoming a big problem. There aren't many places I can go anymore without having to wear a respirator all the time. This led to me finally taking the first step in fighting the giant pollution cloud, namely that of removing the fuel from my locomotive and letting it cool down. The next day was relatively uneventful. All I did was make some Thanksgiving dinner to replenish my food supplies and fix a bunch of wires that I burned out. During this time I began formulating my next project, a large building to house my nuclear reactor and a whole host of machines I'd be making throughout the mod pack. This building is gonna need a lot of materials, mainly lots of iron and copper sheet metal in addition to a few types of stone. Lots of materials I don't have yet. To start, I moved an excavator that had recently finished a silt vein over to a nearby copper vein to begin mining anew. Next I lined up a lot of iron plates to make sheet metal, killed a horde of spooters, collected a bunch of quarried stone, and made some concrete. And just like that, I was ready to start building. The next day, I finalized some designs for my walls before heading over to my reactor out in the big field. During all of this time, said reactor had been slowly depleting fuels and had provided enough of 2 plutonium isotopes to allow me to make a few things of highly enriched plutonium-239 fuel thingies. These are very important because of what they deplete into. Hey, check it out, I've got most of the outline of my building all set up. Even better, my plutonium fuel has depleted and I reprocessed it into several more plutonium isotopes in addition to a certain isotope of americium. This isotope I need to make an americium RTG. This RTG is used to craft the temperature regulator block, which in turn can be used to craft the portable temperature regulator, which does exactly what it sounds like. With it, I won't have to worry about freezing during the winter or boiling during the summer. If only it didn't need a lithium-ion battery, a seemingly unnecessarily difficult item which requires me to make a whole new machine, a fluid infuser. So I infused a few manganese, I think, ingots with oxygen to create oxides, which finally allowed me to craft my first lithium-ion battery. And now, I've got myself a portable temperature regulator. Life's good. It occurred to me that I should try making one of the functioning cooling tower multi-blocks to go along with my nuclear reactor, or reactors, that'll be inside my new building, and it should certainly fit with the overall theme of the area. I already have most of the materials anyway, since it's primarily just concrete. And here it is! Oh shoot. I forgot about that rendering problem. Well, that's not great. I'm pretty sure it's something to do with Optifine, and I'm not removing Optifine, so... Pollution. Acid rain. Let's get rid of that, since Optifine is not something I'm getting rid of. I don't know if that really works, whatever. I'll start with the easy things to fix, like refilling the filters in the chimney of my original factory. The biggest thing, though, that'll get rid of the pollution are the pumps connected to giant pipes built up into the sky. It's kind of like a reverse smokestack. Currently, I only have one such pump and pipe, so I actually will just make another right here. I stuck the new pump on top of the train station so that it could work on the giant cloud of pollution created solely by my train idling for hundreds of days there. It's nasty work setting up the pumps, as it requires sitting in the densest part of the pollution cloud, meaning my respirator only lasts for about a minute. Once it runs out, I gotta get out of there quick, otherwise I'll die. Just like I did here. To be fair, I didn't realize I'd put on a new respirator that was already expired. That wasn't fun, but at least it can be filtering while I'm farming. It's funny how fast I go through Thanksgiving dinners while dying from pollution. Let's be honest, farming and making all the different foods is probably my favorite part of the mod pack, so I'm always happy to have an excuse to do it. The new food I'm trying to make is sweet potato souffle, and the one thing I'm missing is pecans. I can solve my problem by buying several saplings, including a pecan tree sapling, so that I might harvest new food ingredients that weren't available before. I made sure to take them far away from the pollution cloud, so that the leaves aren't killed immediately. The great thing is that you can directly bone meal the nuts or fruits or whatever may be growing on the tree to get lots of it in a hurry. I literally had to spend multiple full days trying to repair damage done by a tornado that shouldn't have done damage. I've had dozens of tornadoes come through the area before and none of them damaged my power lines or the train station. So why the hell did this one? Who knows? Either way, it forced me to get another weather deflector just in case, because apparently the ones I already had weren't enough. During that whole nightmare, the pollution was slowly being cleaned by my pumps, but not quickly enough. So I made a third pump to add to my collection. I also have to spend a decent amount of time just moving the pumps around, as they don't have a very large range for sucking up the pollution blocks. After the low cost of dying several times, it all became worth it on day 35 when I finally got around to making my souffle. In addition, there's a very noticeable improvement in the air quality now thanks to my pumps. The next morning I began building the riverside walls of my, I guess I should designate it something. How about nuclear power plant? The wall consists mostly of slanted sheet metal outcroppings in front of a solid stone background made of large bricks. It took me a much shorter time than I expected to run out of the building materials, and I even had to go off to the nether to grab soul sand and nether bricks to make infernal stone for roofing. Looking pretty good there. Also looking pretty good. 42 TBU fuel, that's what I like to see. Oh come on, not the illagers. I hate getting the stupid blindness from the illusioners. Turns out I can solve my problem by flying 200 blocks in the air with my jetpack since all the mobs just despawn. Neat. Well, I've got a lot of building to do, so I best get busy. Building's great and all, but what about farming? What about building that new greenhouse and growing those new crops? There's something special about that, at least for me. This time around, I'm growing lettuce, tomatoes, and sea lettuce, or seaweed. Oh, and grapes. I know I need to keep building, but hold on a sec. I gotta spend an entire day organizing my kitchen because reasons. In case you were wondering, the reason I'm growing seaweed is so I can make sushi at some point. Completely unrelated to sushi, but still of interest, my phoenix from the last video is all grown up and doing great. I took a day trip to go exploring for more deposits of quarried stone, as I'd run out after 10 days straight of building. I found this cool abandoned ruin of some sort of castle in the middle of a forest. The loot was very exciting. Several whole cobwebs, and ooh, look, more cobwebs. Before heading home, I managed to locate a big fossil to replenish my bone meal, and a deposit of quarried stone, which I put to good use over the next 3 days. At this point, most of what's left is just the roof. A big expanse of infernal blocks, that's literally what they're called. And you know what could speed up the building? A building gadget. Let me go fight off this invasion real quick first though. Ah, this is more like it, although you do run out of blocks in a hurry this way. You also run out of water very quickly, especially when you don't bring any with you. Pro survival tip: when dying of thirst, consume lots of banana nut bread so as to regenerate health faster than you are losing it. I found some interesting loot while exploring another fortress I came across on the side. Lots of gears and miscellaneous weapons. And now that I've got more infernal blocks, I can finish the roof and move on to the last major part of the exterior, the towers. And now, with most of the relevant parts of my nuclear power plant done, it's time to turn my attentions to some progression. I need to go to the end to obtain a special ore found only there, so that I can craft a melter machine. But first, I need Eyes of Ender, which can only be made using a starlight infuser from Astral Sorcery. To make this infuser, I need to make several tiers of altar culminating in a total of 4 pieces of star metal. And that's the tricky part, because I can only get star metal in the nuclear age via a difficult crafting recipe. A recipe which requires 1 nether star per piece of star metal. To begin, I'm going to make a few light wells to collect liquid starlight. Just put an aquamarine in the well and it'll do its thing. I also need to take advantage of nighttime to locate more rock crystals using my resonating wand. Most of the altars require some sort of multi-block, best built high in the air close to the starlight. So I went above the pollution and began building my first altar. The next day I moved all my magical stuff up to the area in the sky and transformed my starlight crafting table into a starlight crafting altar, which I had already prepared the multi-block for. This meant I needed to make another starlight table, but thankfully they're not hard to craft. I also made a little bit of nocturnal powder so that I could test it out and see if it might aid in my wither skull collection. I began preparing for an extended stay in the nether by crafting a device known as the Thirst Quencher. Charge it with power, fill it with water, and you no longer have to drink. When combined with my temperature regulator, my experience in the nether should be no worse than vanilla Minecraft. I tested out some nocturnal powder and it created a spooky cloud that spawned mobs for a few seconds, so I decided I'd make some more of it and take it to the nether with me. The last thing I needed was more food, so I grew some cucumbers and avocados and crafted a stack of sushi. If only I could live off sushi in real life. And now, off to the nether. At long last, a single withered skull. This is taking much too long. And I won't say no to a few more ender pearls either, though. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? Since this is my mod pack, I'm just gonna add a new recipe to the game so that the nuclear age isn't miserable. You can now craft wither skulls using skeleton skulls and already existing items called wither ash dropped by wither skeletons. This way, you still need to kill some wither skeletons, but you don't have to spend your whole life doing it. Oops, I think I used the wrong black powder for the recipe. Time to relaunch again. Here we are, 9 more wither skeleton skulls. I just need to grab that skeleton spawner in my mountain facility real fast. And I literally can grab it if you're wondering. I can pick it up and carry it around. It's pretty sweet. I really should not have been so cocky as to try to fly through those trees. I guess I won't be doing that again. And here are the last 2 skulls I need for my 4 withers. Oh no, replacement wing for my plane, which used up almost all of my remaining aluminum, so I'm gonna go move an excavator to an aluminum vein real quick. Heck yeah, 4 nether stars, more rock crystals, and my first piece of star metal ready for use in the celestial altar. Now all I need is for it to be nighttime so I can actually craft this thing. Interestingly, it happens to be a blood moon. I wonder if that'll have any effect on the magic at all. Be neat if it did. Although maybe that's something more in line with the blood magic mod, since astral sorcery isn't particularly evil. Here's the celestial altar, and I've already got the multi-block set up for it, so I can go ahead and craft the starlight infuser right away. Unsurprisingly, it also needs its own multi-block, which I got a little confused on for a sec, but it's all good now. And at long last, I've got my first eye vendor. Yes, I do have more than one, by the way. I really need more than 1 fuel can as well. More like 20, since I've got no idea how far I'll have to fly looking for end cities. Oh yes, I'm taking my fighter. What did you think I'd do? Walk the whole way? Everything's easier with a fast plane, especially a plane that doubles as a submarine. I like how I dig straight into a dungeon while digging down for the stronghold. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's pretty cool, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for at the moment. Imagine getting a notch apple for once. Definitely not me. At least there was a cave connected to the dungeon, so it was only a matter of time before I found the stronghold itself. Whoa, would you look at that? It's only been 5 seconds and I already found the portal room. Definitely didn't take a really long time that I just edited out or anything. Turns out the portal room specifically is exposed on the ocean floor, and I guess I just missed it while I was flying around underwater before. Oh well, at least I found it eventually. I had to sit around for a while so I could sleep and set my spawn point just in case, but now I'm all set. You saw what I did to those 4 withers. The dragon doesn't stand a chance. Not this one at least. Hey, a dragon heart and some dragon scales, and let's not forget the egg. Now I'm free to start mining what I came here for. Ender biotite ore. Fancy stuff. There's also a biome essence. But now the real adventure begins, the search for end cities. And that didn't take long. First end city is in sight, just like these shulkers are in the sights of my railgun. As usual though, the combat shotgun is most effective. Anyone remember this old glitch? When certain end city loot chests would generate and then break, letting the items despawn? Apparently that's in this version, because all the loot is dumped on the ground. Lucky I made it here in time before it despawned. Well, that's one end city down, and I still need an elytra, so the search continues. Check out this giant meteor. I've never come across one of these before. It seems to be made of lots of Draconium ore. I can't really use it quite yet, but I won't pass up the chance to grab a ton of it when it's right in front of me. Holy, that's over a stack of the ore. There's something else out here that I was hoping to find, and it looks like I just did. That, right over there, is the home of the Chaos Dragon. Killing the Ender Dragon is like punching a baby slime compared to this thing. I'm certainly not going to fight it myself today. No, I just wanted to take a look. Hopefully I won't pay for my curiosity. One day I'll come back, when I've got draconic armor and an attack helicopter with lots of missiles. Now I've just got to fly 10,000 blocks back home. Oh shoot, I'm back here. That's better. Now I've just got to organize several backpacks and shulker boxes worth of stuff that I've collected. All that diamond armor I got has to go somewhere, and I don't really feel like filling my already limited chest space with it. So I'm going to use this predicament as an excuse to finish the floor above my kitchen, so I can fill it with armor stands. I have no clue if there's any functional difference between these armor stands from Bibliocraft and normal vanilla ones. Other than that, these are cheaper to make, so I'll go with them any day. And now that this floor is done, I have a much larger one that I must complete, a much larger floor. Lots of concrete and lots of lag from my smokestacks. Specifically this smoker is creating a gajillion particles constantly. I'll just remove some of them so I can still get the effect without my FPS obliterating itself. I'd also really like to make some defenses for my nuclear power plant using the large emplacement weapons from Immersive Intelligence. I specifically left spots to put turrets at the tops of some of the walls. The emplacement structure is pretty easy to make, but most of the turrets require circuits to construct. And the turret I want to make, the CPDS turret, takes processors to build, so I need to start crafting those now while there's still time left. I've got lots of time while all those parts are crafting to work on other projects, like making the melter machine, the thing I went to all the trouble to go to the end to get the parts for. I might just have a really small brain, but I cannot for the life of me figure out how to drain the liquid in my chemical bath, and I really need to put liquid concrete in it instead. I think it'll just be easier to make an entirely new one at this point. Then I don't have to juggle multiple fluids. Now I can put my concrete in this bath and make concrete bricks, which I need for the emplacement multi-block. Got some sandbags, my special wrench for operating the emplacement, and would you look at that, my transistors are all done. Now to turn them into processors. I'd like to make some flux ducts so that I can finally have a non-wired method of transmitting power. This will be especially useful where I've currently only got high voltage wires running all over the place. You've seen me tie to them plenty of times already. In preparation for more complicated molten salt reactor and steam turbine setups in the future, I need to move my current basic reactor to the other, smaller corner of the power plant. I've managed to make the wiring situation much safer by raising my wires higher off the ground and implementing the flux ducts. But I just realized, I'm over 50% irradiated. That's not at all safe and it's already giving me debuffs. The only solution is Radaway, a handy substance made from ethanol and glowing mushrooms and a fluid enricher. It didn't take long to set up the new machines, plus I already had the ingredients I needed, and before I knew it, I had Radaway. With just 2 of the items, I booted my radiation level back down to 0. To celebrate, I made a bunch of burgers. Day 99, time to assemble the emplacement. The way this thing works is you give it some power and a redstone signal, and then you can choose what type of weapon you want to make. The weapons themselves take additional materials depending on what it is you're making. You've got everything from giant flamethrowers to AA cannons to railguns. The weapon I want to make is a giant rotary cannon that expends massive quantities of ammo for massive damage output. It's the one I mentioned that needs some processors, probably because it can even shoot down incoming artillery shells and fancy stuff like that. Yes, giant howitzers are a thing in this mod pack. I've got those 2 processors I made ready to go, so let's see what else this bad boy requires. Oh shoot. It needs 6 processors, not 2. Oops. Yeah, I don't think I'm making 4 more of those things in the next 10 minutes. What I can make, however, is the machine gun nest, which only needs a few basic circuits that are easy to make. Here we are at day 100, or should I say 500. We're now officially halfway to 1,000 days spent on this world. Maybe by then I'll have 4 more processors. Anyways, here's the machine gun nest, and apparently you build it a little bit at a time with each click. That's actually pretty cool. I've only ever made these in creative before. It takes loose machine gun bullets, not the magazine, so I don't even have ammo for it yet. But I guess I know what I'll be doing in the next video. Oh no, it's hiding. No, come back. Anyways, that's that for this 100-day video. If you guys are excited for the series and want to see me continue the grind toward the atomic bomb at the end of the nuclear age, which coincidentally I'm much closer to now thanks to my trip to the end, then don't forget to drop a like and subscribe down below. But that's all for this video. Take care everyone. See ya.